Hi guys. All right, so we are going to do our watercolor for this week. We are not going to be blending as many colors today, so I am going to start, actually we'll do wet on wet. So go ahead and wet your page. So you're just going to take your water, make sure that you have cleaned your brush. Okay, I probably should have started with this. Make sure that you've got everything set up. So you have got your paint set up, and then you've got your water over here. You want to make sure that you've got some towels in case something happens. And then once you've got everything set up, we're going to start by wetting our entire page. We are going to be blending a little bit today, but not as much as we did last time. This is going to be in landscape as well, which I'm sure you have already realized from the way that the video is positioned, or the paper is positioned. All right, once I have my entire page wet, I'm almost there, not quite. We are going to paint the entire page blue to start, except for a little spot up here where we are going to put a sun. So I actually probably should have left that dry. So I'm going to take a dry napkin real quick, or rag if that's what you have. And I'm actually going to dry a little circle up here where my sun is going to go. And that'll make sure that the blue doesn't get into it. But you got to remember when you get up there not to paint across it, okay? All right, so I have a dry spot up here for the sun, and then we're gonna do the entire page in blue. So I am going to dry my brush off just a little bit, and then I'm gonna dip in here and get blue. I'm gonna start at the bottom, and I'm gonna go all the way up the page with it. You will see why in just a minute, why we're doing our entire page blue today to start with. Remember, as you get towards the top, not to forget that you left that spot where we're going to put the sun. So be careful when you get up there, because you don't want to paint through the sun. Now, if you happen to paint through the sun, it is totally okay, because you can just use that same rag that you use to dry your page off to get the blue off of the page. It won't totally come off, but it'll come off enough that you'll be able to put your sun there, okay? Because if you remember back a couple of watercolors ago, I completely forgot to leave a space for a sun at all, and I had to get the paint off of the page to do that. So it's possible. All right. Now, I mentioned to those of you that were on the call for the guided drawing, or on the Zoom call for the guided drawing, our guided drawing and our watercolor are going to be very similar this week. They're going to look very much the same. All right, so once I have gotten all my blue on, I'm going to wash my brush off really well, because we are going to do yellow next. I know it's a little weird to do the lighter color after the darker color, but since we needed blue on the whole page, it was easier to start with that. So I'm going to, after I've really made sure that my brush is clean, I'm going to get into the yellow here, and I'm just going to paint the bottom. We're making green for our grass down here, okay? If you did not get enough yellow your first go to make all of this green down here, make sure that you clean your brush really well before you go back into that yellow, okay? It looks like I might have actually gotten enough. Yeah, maybe I didn't. I may have to go back up one more time. Well, that's looking okay. I think I might leave it the way it is. All right, so I have my green grass down here. If you don't have your green grass quite yet, you can go ahead and pause and keep kind of messing with it until you've got your grass. But I'm pretty happy with that, so I'm gonna leave it the way it is. I am going to clean my brush off really well. The next thing we're gonna do is a little bit of brown. So we're gonna use red to do that, because remember, down here, we have our blue and our yellow already, which is made green. Now we're gonna add a little bit of red into it, and it's going to create that brown. So we're gonna do two things with the brown. We're gonna do our fence right here, and then we're gonna do a tree here. So I am gonna start with the tree first. You need to make sure that you start down here in the green and where you've made green with that red. I'm only getting a little bit of red because it's a lot easier to add color to it than it is to take away, especially with watercolor. So I'm going to try to create my brown down here, which is just pretty red right now, but that's okay. We'll go back and fix it in a second. And I'm going to put my tree in here. Okay, there wasn't quite enough color down here in the bottom to turn this red into brown, and that is fine, because now that we've got our red there, I'm going to go in and I'm going to clean my brush really well. And I think I'm going to grab a little more yellow to begin with. Again, just the tip of the brush. I'm not going to put too much yellow on there because you can see that was a ton of yellow and I barely touched it. Aha, all right, we're starting to get a better color now. See how it was red and blue up here and I added that yellow in and we're starting to get a brown now, although it is still a very yellow brown. So I am going to wash my brush one more time. And very carefully, I'm going to get just the smallest amount of blue and then I'm going to dab it off on the edge to try and get as much as I can off. And I'm going to add some blue into this and I think that I'm probably going to get my brown I'm looking for. Yeah, there we go. All right. All right, now that I have a better color over here that I'm happier with, I'm going to use this to pull some branches out over here. If you are nervous about doing that, don't. You can have branches down here if you want to. My tree is kind of a little bigger than I wanted it to, so I'm going to pull it out here just a little bit more. All right, there's my tree. I'm going to let that just hang out. I think I'm going to grab a little bit of yellow. Actually, no, I'm not. I'm gonna leave that and I'm gonna let it dry. Hopefully by the end of the video, we'll be able to put some green up there for the leaves. If we can't, then I'll tell you how to do that, okay? All right, next thing I wanna do is we are gonna put our fence post over here. So again, I'm gonna get just a little bit of red. I mean, tiny, tiny, tiny bit of red. Because we're going in this green and we're gonna try to blend into brown. I'm going to use the very edge of the paintbrush here and I'm just going to use that to make the fence posts. You don't want them to be too thick. I know it's really, really red right now and that's fine. We're going to add some more color to it in a little while to see if we can kind of tone down that red. And then I'm going to put my second fence post over here. And then I'm going to put my two, which I've learned are called balusters, here. I'm going to start with the bottom one down here first. I'm not going to make them too thick, okay? And I'm going to put my second one up here. Ooh, that looks brown. Go down here and use that again. All right. Now, I know that the fence post is still looking a little red there, but honestly, I'm going to leave it the way it is because I don't hate the color and I don't want to keep messing with it because I'm afraid it's going to keep spreading. All right. All right, so we have our fence post in here. We have our tree over here that's still kind of drying. While we're waiting for that, I'm going to put the sun in up here. So you're going to clean your brush really, really well again. And we're gonna get yellow, just a little bit of yellow. We don't need a ton of yellow for this. And I am going to very carefully paint the inside of my sun. I don't want to get too close to that blue at first because you don't want to pull blue in because then you're gonna end up with a green sun and we do not want that. My sun is very large. It must be very close to the fence post. All right, and then once I've got the inside of my sun done and I'm pretty happy with it, I'm going to get a little closer to the edges here. It helps that the sky is totally dry right now. You might want to wait and make sure that your sky is completely dry before you put the sun in, because if you don't, you're going to end up with a lot of green, okay? All right, my sun is in. Pretty happy with my fence post here, so I'm gonna leave that alone. I'm also gonna leave the tree alone. You can see it's kind of spreading a little bit here because it was really wet when I did it. That's totally okay. And what I'm gonna do is once this has completely dried, is I am actually going to come in with a crayon, and I'm gonna add my birds in here, and I'm gonna add the nest in, and I'm probably gonna add some green up here for the actual tree. You can also clean up some of these lines when you do that. If you want to draw like a line around the post with your brown, it'll help with some of the spreading that happened down here. But that's it. That's going to be our watercolor for this week. If you want to make sure that this doesn't spread quite as much as it did for me, make sure that your background is pretty dry before you paint on it. So you might have to put your green and your blue down and then let the whole thing dry and then work on your tree and your fence posts. And if you decide to do that, that's totally fine, okay? All right, friends, that is it for watercolor this week. We will be doing watercolor on Thursday at 10 a.m. just because Friday is a holiday this week. All right, friends, I will talk to you soon, I'm sure. Bye.